What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of A Breath of Fresh Air, the podcast that helps you escape, man. A different perspective, maybe a new perspective, as Brendan Urie would say. An opportunity to be your best self, a chance to make your life better than it currently is, or you can look at us in pity, and that shit's fine too. um, there's a lot of shit that we need to talk about. We've been saving up a good amount of time to make sure that we cover this topic right. Um, Today's guest is a returning guest, Mr. Kurtis, who has been helping us a lot with movies, a lot of just the backstory stuff. He's been our go-to on a lot of movie content. He knows his shit, and a different perspective on a lot of these topics really helps us to dive a little bit deeper and get some of that meaning that we otherwise might not get. Curtis, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You?
Yeah, it's my bedtime, but we gotta the show must go on. Am I right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Dude, so much shit has happened this week, man. So I went to the gym today, 2 hours,
Yeah?
and that was holy shit, dude. So listen, when you don't go to the gym for such a long time and you get back into it, like when you start off, like the first 20 minutes are the worst minutes of your life. You're like,
Oh, trust
why
me.
am I even alive? And then once you get into it, you're like, oh my God, why don't I just do this every day? You know what I mean? And then, you start pumping out your workout. And then at the end, when you're leaving, you're like, oh my God.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I actually earlier this week went to our local high school and tried doing my old JROTC workout, which I haven't done for coming on a year and a half, and I could feel it more than I've ever felt it before, man. I was aching in places I've never ached before.
That's right. You did ROTC. That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
That's good.
So
That's good though for like discipline and
Oh yeah, and I
um,
mean, I got a few good workouts out of it, and I went there and I tried doing it, and it killed me, man. I understand what you're saying, especially in the heat that the West Coast is getting right now.
well, some of you guys, some of that stuff's outside, is it not?
Oh, I'm doing it all outside. My whole workout's outside.
Oh, that's insane. God bless you for being insane. Um,
Yeah,
dude,
I was doing my workout in 101-degree temperature.
damn. The nice thing is I did have a workout partner. One of my friends, Chris, came to the gym with me, and we both been having a rough go, with with self love and shit, and that
Mhm.
has nothing with just to be clear, because people are like, Aaron, you're beautiful, blah blah. This has nothing to do really with me being as heavy as I am. It's more, um, I want to make sure that my body is healthy enough, internally as well as externally, that in 50, 60 years, even though I don't want to be alive that long, what I mean, I don't want to be old, but I want to be
Yeah,
able to have that opportunity to get to know my grandkids and see my kids get married and so on and so forth. So it's one of
understand that.
those, yeah, where it's,
Mm-hmm.
and and so we worked out, we popped a chalky milk, had some grilled veggies and some brown rice, get a little bit of that protein and stuff back in your system.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we will have as much time like we normally do, Curtis, because I'm going to be going to the gym at least 4 days a week. Man, it felt too good to not go back.
Hey, and that's
Um,
the important thing. I mean, as long as you're happy and it's doing good, that's the important thing.
well, yeah, you think about it. The bigger these arms get, look at these arms, bro. I mean, that's not bad. You actually see a little bit of toning here in the middle. The vein is starting to pop under the muscle. This is just flab. Don't ignore that. But the
I
top
mean,
and the outside are doing really good, and it's a good feeling. Honestly, if you go to the gym and you just walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes and you lift a barbell like 10 times,
mhm.
you will feel that sense of accomplishment and that feeling of like self-love. It will set off your dopamine, and you'll live your best life. So before G Fuel
Yeah,
tries to get us to sponsor him or some shit, maybe we should talk about the shit we're here to talk about. Goddamn. But anyways, guys,
yeah,
so
probably.
less time gaming and streaming. But I mean, when I am live, I'll have more capability to maybe pop in some Twinkies. We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Definitely.
So huge drops over the last 24 hours in the gaming community. My God. First I want to talk about Respawn. You may not know this, Curtis, but JC for Christmas, she got a gaming chair, right?
Yeah, I think you mentioned something about that.
Now, and it's purple. It matches her whole aesthetic for her office that we painted last year, the whole 9 yards. Now,
Yeah.
her chair was actually a Respawn chair.
Oh, okay.
It's like a $300 chair that we got for like under 150. Such a steal.
Oh, good. That's a great deal.
So Respawn, some of their products are a little pricey, but they did just release monitor stands. And it's not your traditional, thing where they don't have a lot of mobility, so on and so forth, right? They've released a full mobility monitor stand. And they also have it, and it comes in a set of 2 as well. So I actually got a text about it from them because I subscribe to their texts. And, funny enough, Nate talked to me about that, and we ordered it, dude. So this may change my entire gaming setup, give me more space for the stream deck, more space to like take notes and stuff for, our conversations that we love having. But so that'll be here.
How it is.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Because I got you run Asus monitors, right?
Correct. Full compatibility.
I got Asus monitors too, so if it really is nice and you feel like they're secure on there, I may have to go and grab a few for myself. Because I'm always game for a bit more desk state. Those monitors take up a ton.
Well, and I don't know if you've seen my mics or my monitor stand. It's huge. It is huge. It takes up so much space. The only downside is going to be the glass, because I have a glass desk. So I'm going to have to figure out a way around that. And a way to restrain my glass desk to its frame, or I will have to move desk and I'll just move to the other side of the room. But new gaming monitors, full mobility. They go sideways, upside down. They tilt forward, backwards. It's just, holy shit, dude. Why hasn't someone done this sooner at such a good fucking deal? But anyways, so super excited about Respawn. But the real gaming news that we have for you today, guys, is Steam is in the process of launching a new product. It is called the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I heard a bit about it.
So it's coming out on around Christmas time. So they will start taking pre-orders, reservations, whatever you want to call them, here in the next couple months. Curtis, this is literally the best of the PSP, the best of the Nintendo Switch, all in a handheld computer.
Yeah, I heard a few interesting things about it actually earlier today. Apparently what they're saying is it's pretty much going to be your PC on the go. They say it's not limited to Steam actually. The name sort of makes you wonder and think that it's limited to just Steam, but they're saying that it's going to be compatible with Origin and Battle.net and other things too, so that you can even download those and play those games on it too. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with it. Especially with Switch and everything lately having like the exclusive sort of on the go gaming. This will be sort of interesting to see what happens.
Oh, 100%, 100%. JC loves her Switch. You know this. I know this. Everyone who knows her knows this. She does not stop playing the Switch, even when she's playing queued DVD with us. You know what I mean? She's constantly doing Animal Crossing or one of her other games that I don't know what they are. She has a couple Mario ones, but she's really into that, And I think that this will help people that need to transition from console to PC to really get that full experience that they're missing. You know what I mean? So next week we'll have a full report on the Steam Deck, and we're going to talk a lot about that because there's so much information to cover. The one thing I do want to correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the starting price on that is $400.
Yeah, it's only $50 more than the Nintendo Switch right now, I believe.
With so much more, I didn't know about the Origin compatibility and other shit too. Could you see Nate walking down the street playing fucking Warcraft on his on
Oh yeah, and I mean, think of
Oh
those
man.
MMOs and stuff like that. I mean, you can just see people, going and implementing that and using it a lot more. I mean, walking down the road, think you're walking down the road, you could be in a Overwatch match while walking to the gas station, walking to school, let's play a game of League.
Absolutely.
You,
Well, and
I
if I've said it before, I've said it 1,000 times. And we've talked about this a lot, Curtis, just you and me.
yeah.
This cannot flop. They have to be on their shit about this. This isn't Cyberpunk 2077. This isn't,
This
Call of Duty where you can
this
just throw out mediocre content. What do we need?
I mean, at this point, we just need something that is going to work and make everyone happy. I mean, Steam has came out with things in the past. I mean, they've came out with Steam controllers and stuff like that, and that stuff has flopped. It's not done good. It hasn't sold good. It's not doing good. And at the point, I think the Steam community is going to lose trust in the company in developing that sort of aspect. So I think that if the Steam Deck doesn't go good, I think we're going to see Steam transition as a company into trying to evolve and get a console out and to probably just developing their platform into maybe something more welcome for other games. Because if this flops, I don't see them being able to even get the money or funding to try to develop something again. Because it's just they've flopped so many things at this point. Steam VR, Steam controllers.
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. I really think that this might be, and I hate that we're talking about like Steam's redemption, but at the same time, we're at that point where we need the next thing. We're not ready for full dive gear yet. VR is making advances, but it'll probably be a couple years before we see something significant. And, this is really Steam's opportunity to make their move on the market. Because as you know, they've been making certain deals with Microsoft games for their licensing, right? Age of Empires,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. That, and obviously Steam and EA have really locked arms, which is great. And, PC gaming will always be my main because of, one, all of the sales. I
Mm-hmm.
can literally get any game I want and never have to pay full price. You just got to be patient. And some of these games that are 50, 60, 70, $80, like Red Dead Redemption 2, this game should not cost $50 or $60 still. I get that it's
I have to
good,
agree.
but Rockstar, you suck.
I mean,
give
they
us
just
give us
stopped
GTA
developing the game.
6.
They just stopped developing the game. I mean, that's literally where it's at. I mean, there's players in that game that literally have more money, more gold than they know what to do with. They have everything unlocked, they have everything maxed, and they just can't do anything because there's nothing left to do. The game has been so underdeveloped. I mean, literally Red Dead Online could have been the next like GTA. It could have been GTA 5 but for Red Dead. It
Right.
was that it was that popular of a game. I mean, sales at the point of release were through the roof. Everyone completed that campaign. They were ready to jump into the online. They started playing that online. And for the first month or two, there was decent amount of updates and everything. But then it's like, Rockstar just had a blackout. We haven't seen much of anything. Every now and then we'll get this tiny little 50 megabyte, 100 megabyte update, but nothing significant.
And I
It's
think
really just
we've
sad.
and with games like that, you need to be providing content. These 10-year-olds aren't going to be buying shark cards for much longer if GTA 5 can't come out with something new, whether it's even a new heist or something. They have to do their best to keep that game alive. And I'm not saying that it's dead. It still has over 1 million daily logins from users. But at some point, people will lose that enthusiasm and such. So I think with Steam, this was a smart move to make it, an open platform, if you will, for a handheld console. So Anyway, we'll get into the deep dive there next week. I'm super excited to talk with Nate, who's going to be our special guest, covering the gaming and tech portion of the podcast. And he's done a lot of research already, and he'll be able to give us a lot of these answers to some of these questions we just don't know enough about. Stuff that's we're scratching our minds at. I do want to transition before we get into some of these trailers and movie. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Black Widow today, but I would like to take a minute to transition into arguably the most NSFW portion of our show, which is name a movie that would have been much better if the main characters had sex.
What are you doing, step bro?
So this week for me, Kurtis, I want to add to our Hall of Fame list the movie. It's called Get Hard, featuring Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. Are you familiar with that movie?
I actually am not.
So Will Ferrell is think of the Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
Will Ferrell's this big stock guy. He gets set up, and he runs into Kevin Hart, who is a guy who just washes cars and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, Will Ferrell assumes, because of prejudice, that Kevin Hart has done time in jail, and Kevin Hart is hurting for money so that his family can move to get his daughter a better future. So Kevin Hart pretends that he's done jail time and offers to help Will Ferrell out for money, and he's bullshitting about shit that he thinks people would do and what would happen in jail to get him ready. And honestly, I think it would have been funnier if I don't know. I just feel like a sex scene, aside from the little tease that we get with Will Ferrell and one of the gentlemen, I think there would have been more funniness to that aspect, especially within the prison. You always got Bubba, who is going to come for your cheeks, if you will. So I think that they could have played that a little bit more, but you never know. I don't know. So that was my idea, Kurtis. What do you have? What do you have for us for this week?
To be honest, it was really hard for me to think of one this week. I mean, there's a lot of good movies out there, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense for it with the movie. But to surprise of most people, I was thinking of The Last of Us.
Is that a movie, or is that I thought this was a video game.
Oh, sorry. The Quiet Place is what I meant. I was thinking of something different.
Oh, A Quiet Place.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
With
I corrected myself.
With John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I need to watch the second one so we can talk about that on our next movie. But
I haven't watched the second one yet either, but it's actually, from what I hear, it's out on Paramount. So
we may have to look into that together and see what we can do.
Maybe.
Do a movie night in the Discord. Unofficially. We would never do that.
Oh, definitely. Definitely not. That would not happen. Maybe watching the movie at the same time, pausing it at the same time.
Exactly. We're not trying to break the rules.
Get any copyright rules broken. Definitely not.
So tell me about The Quiet Place. Where are you thinking for your... Are you thinking some alien probing shit, or what's your mind at?
I was thinking alien probing shit, to be honest. I was just thinking, everyone, they claim aliens probe and everything. We got good aliens in this movie. I was thinking it would be interesting to just have a scene of that, even if it's just, in passing, not with a main character, like some side person. You see him in the background getting probed. I think it would be an interesting add-on for the movie.
You're just walking down the street, some guy's getting anally probed on the sidewalk. Like, oh, hey, John.
It would be interesting. Can't deny that.
Well, so at the end of the first Quiet Place movie, John sacrifices himself what looks like for his family, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that he didn't survive? You know what I'm saying? There's a second movie, and I saw him there. I don't know if they're going to do flashbacks like Deadpool does or other movies, or
maybe he got anally probed and they never showed it.
And then they let him out. Yeah, John, we just wanted to see the Buki. We wanted to know
You
why
never know.
Well, at this point, the aliens are confused. They're like, "Well, you ran for Captain America. You weren't chosen. Did you not have America's ass?" So they had to probe it to check. So,
Obviously, it's the only thing that would make sense at this point.
I mean, at this point, it's just a conspiracy theory. I blame the Clintons. So,
Definitely the Clintons at fault.
jeez. So there was a lot of really good movies that we saw trailers for while we were waiting to watch Black Widow. First one I want to talk about is Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings. So Shang-Chi,
is it 10 or 9? I thought it was 9.
It's 10.
Okay.
And he is a very unknown character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For those of you who follow the comics, you'll know a lot more about him.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest. We all saw the trailer, and the first thing we thought of was more than most of us was probably some sort of kung fu movie or something like that. If you hadn't read the comics or anything, but from the looks of it, because there was a few different trailers they showed in the theater. I don't know which one you saw, Aaron. They showed 2 different ones in my showing for Black Widow when I was there, but it's a very interesting story by the sound of it, and I'm curious to see how they portray it, especially with him fighting his father and everything like that by the sound of it. So I'm curious, what's your stand on it, Aaron? What are you thinking about it?
What I'm thinking and where we may be looking. So we talked about this last week. Just knowing that the movie was coming out, we talked about, Shang-Chi, the person that he really fights, his Doctor Doom of the Fantastic Four, if you will, is the Mandarin. And, I'm just excited to see when that happens. Sometimes these characters don't get to fight their main villain right away. As you know, the Avengers fight multiple battles. Thor, always has his issues with, Loki or Hercules in the comics, and they're going on quest, whatever. Captain America is fighting some sort of anything that's not, about having freedom and making good choices. And Spider-Man watches little guy. They're very predictable. With Shang-Chi, I've seen a lot that Marvel is not following comics word for word, script for script, and we saw that with Endgame. We saw that with Civil War.
We saw that with Black Widow.
And we really saw that with Black Widow. Holy shit, we're going to be talking about that half the time. So I'm excited to see how Kevin Feige continues to put this universe together to where things will still make sense. Giving credit and tribute where it's needed, to honor the comics from which all these, experiences that we've had are based, while still providing an experience for the new fans, the mainstream, if you will, to, still be excited to go to a Marvel movie. At this time, with RDJ retiring from Marvel potentially, Chris Evans as well,
been confirmed now,
and others, we're seeing that they no longer need these big box office names anymore to sell these movies. They don't. People will go to a movie just because it's a Marvel movie now. And we learned that not yesterday. We learned that back in 2015 or 2016 with Deadpool. Oh, it's Marvel. He's a Marvel superhero. People didn't have a fucking clue who Deadpool was. Because remember, living in Utah, you have all these Mormon moms like, I took my kids. It was a superhero movie. It's like, it was rated R. You're dumb. So I digress. But I mean, you've seen how big this Marvel fan base has gotten. And yeah. I would dare say that the Marvel fan base and the support that Marvel has right now is bigger than Star Wars. And I'm not afraid to say that.
And I have to agree with you. I mean, it's surprising. And the thing is, I mean, you were talking about RDJ leaving, and it's actually been confirmed. I mean, if you look at his social media, he used to be followed to all his fellow actors, and at this point, he's actually unfollowed and unfriended all of his fellow actors on all of his social media platforms. So it's very highly suspected, like very, very highly. Everyone is 99% sure that he is gone.
Did he do that because of his, like, trying to save the world, like, be more serious? Or do you think this was a PR
I
mistake?
don't believe so. I think this was him doing it as a PR move because um, one thing that a lot of people didn't know is that RDJ actually wasn't very liked by some of his cast members, and so I think as he was getting closer towards the end of these last few Avengers films, when his contract was coming up, I think he finally decided I'm just done, and his cast members, now that everyone is sort of assuming he's not coming back and his contract's gone and everything, I think that him actually unfollowing and removing everyone, I think a lot of people are assuming that that is sort of the confirmation that he's no longer going to be with the Marvel Universe.
We do have to remember that
Which
every
is
Marvel
very
actor, they do have their cameo clause. So Marvel can and may call on him at
and
any
that's
time.
possible. I mean,
But again, Iron Man is of the past. If we had an opportunity to see him come back, the perfect time would be in that Spider-Man Far From Home. I think that would have been a good chance for like a flashback of him and Peter sharing a tender moment. Because we didn't have that Peter and Ben love that we would. But again, with what Marvel's doing, literally anything is
and I really
possible.
think
Go ahead.
I mean, I have to agree with you, and I think that this Spider-Man movie is going to be where we get that information on whether or not he's going to be with or no longer with Marvel. Because if we see him in many scenes in Spider-Man, we'll have to assume that, hey, maybe he, re-upped his contract. But if he only has one or two scenes in, Spider-Man, then I think that it's likely that it's going to be just one of his last scenes. It's
I
the end of an era.
I think that there's so many people that can take up, the mantle of the Avengers and be Earth's mightiest heroes. So I'm not worried about that. RDJ set off something beautiful, and we're seeing all sorts of strands now. We've got the Guardians of the Galaxy. We have the Immortals coming at the end of the year. We've got Shang-Chi coming in September. And I mean, you have all these household names like Spider-Man, who will keep this thing going forever. So not worried about that. But there is so much, and I am super excited to see where the hell they're even going to go with this. I mean, anything could happen. Literally anything could happen. The other trailer that we saw that we were really excited about was Snake Eyes.
Yeah,
With
definitely. Snake Eyes.
this one, I want you to give us more insight because I feel like you're more of a GI Joe fan than I am.
Well, I sort of grew up on G.I. Joe, so I mean, I tried to stay with the series as much as I could. Snake Eyes, I'm really curious first off about what they're going to do with this movie. Because with how they sort of portrayed it in the trailer, it doesn't look the same as it used to with Storm Shadow being the one that brought in Snake Eyes or caught him stealing or something like that. It looks like they're going off of that trail and maybe starting something different, which is going to be interesting to see how they evolve that. I mean, we already know that there's a second movie lined up for after Snake Eyes for 2022. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do there. But this Snake Eyes film, I'm thinking what they're trying to do is just give us some background into him. Because we always had a tiny bit of backstory into Snake Eyes, but we never really got a huge amount of backstory. And I think what they're trying to do here is give us some character development with him. Because it really, all we know is he was, at one point a kid who was at one point with Storm Shadow. He got taught by the same teacher, caught Storm Shadow killing his teacher, and that's sort of where he went and began fighting. We never know why he always wears the mask, why he doesn't talk. We don't know any of that, and where we are currently in, the G.I. Joe series. So I think that hopefully in this movie we'll at least get some backstory and find out why he is having all this happen to him, and maybe we'll find out why some of these things are going on with him.
I am a big, well, I'd like to think I'm a big fan of G.I. Joe. I saw the first movie right before I went off to Ecuador, and Last Resort to this day is one of my favorite songs, and the first time I heard that was from the movie. And I feel like what the G.I. Joe franchise could be doing here, like you said, is we need backstory for those of us who are, we don't read the comics, we don't know the toys and the whole 9 yards. With this being an Origins movie, it reminds me a lot of X-Men Origins Wolverine, where we all know that Wolverine's a badass, blah, 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 but they made a movie specifically telling us a bit about who Logan is, why he is the Wolverine. It tells us a little bit about Sabretooth as well. Some of the other guys that, he ends up bumping uglies with later. Not bumping uglies, rubbing shoulders with. Jeez, wow.
What are you doing, step bro?
I think this is really going to be a turning point for the G.I. Joe franchise. Because, the G.I. Joe franchise, they have not made a movie since 2013. So they've been coming on almost 10 years. It's not been 10 years, but we're close enough that we might as well consider it. Since we've seen a movie from their franchise, where it used to be that we would get a movie of G.I. Joe every other year, every 2 years, and it's been very silent on the G.I. Joe half. Like, no movies, no TV shows, nothing like that. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this and how they evolve it into their next movie, G.I. Joe Ever Vigilant, which is set to release in July 22nd, 2022.
I think that it's just a good reset time. Sometimes you screw things up and you need to reevaluate it. So, this could have been caused due to contract issues that they initially had with their original cast, not wanting to return. This could be, issues they had at the box office with a movie as big as G.I. Joe, and just the amount of firepower and special effects that you need. I feel like that's a little bit more affordable in today's market, and you have more development options. So I think that may be something that will actually help them because, again, our technology and the ability to use green screen, the ability to do this CGI custom work is so much more advanced. And I think that they will do Snake Eyes his justice. Like you said, we know he's a badass. We want to watch it happen. And I really would like to learn a little bit more about his vow of silence. Mainly, obviously he's seen some stuff, and getting that full backstory will be helpful. I'm interested to see how close they keep it to canon, compared to, like we've seen a lot with Marvel, where they'll kind of throw a couple different things together and it works out to keep everyone at least in the knowing and understanding. So, but yeah, Snake Eyes is releasing here in the summer, and what is it? When is that? The next 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I think
it's set to release on, I think it's the 23rd.
23rd. So
July 23rd.
That's literally like a week. That's awesome. So that's next Friday or yeah.
I believe so.
That's next Friday. Holy shit, that's awesome. So that's something I probably
Definitely
will be
going to see that.
Exactly. We've been waiting a long time for some G.I. Joe content. Obviously, at this point we're so cautious. We're like, God, I hope it doesn't flop. But at some point,
that's really what it is.
Mm-hmm. At some point, they just gotta get their shit together. It's going to be crazy opening up that big bag of candy, that they're throwing at us.
Oh, I have to agree there.
Oh man, Black Widow. So,
Where do we start there, man?
well, did you watch it opening night or did you watch it sometime over the weekend? I'm trying to remember.
I watched it on Sunday because I had to wait for family to get off and have availability to join. I mean, I wasn't going to see it by myself and not let them come with.
Go away, Mom. This is for me.
It wasn't mom.
That's
It was
hilarious.
it was brother and dad that wanted to come and join.
So Black Widow. Let's hear your overall, just thoughts. On this movie. This was. I don't want to say it was a shot in the dark, but I mean, last time we talked about expectations for this movie, we were shitting pretty hard on Wonder Woman 1984. So,
I mean, that is extremely true. I mean, this movie really, we were expecting a strong female character. Specifically, obviously, we were expecting Natasha Romanoff to be strong, and we were expecting a good backstory out of her. And we were definitely just wanting to make sure that Marvel gave her the justice that she deserved. I mean, we haven't. It was really, we were just wanting to make sure it didn't flop. And I have to say, happily, in my opinion, it did not flop. It went above expectations. I don't know what's your opinion on that.
just my brief thoughts are with Black Widow. She's been such a big member of like the supporting cast for these movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to be able to have her fill a role where we get to actually understand her, right? In the other movies where she support Captain America, Winter Soldier, Iron Man 2, so on and so forth throughout, all of the big meet and greets with Marvel. She's always played whatever part needed to be done to ultimately save the day. If you think about it, if she hadn't let Black Panther get stunned in Captain America Civil War, he would have caught up to Cap and Bucky and it would have been hell. That would have given time for Rhodey and Tony to get over there and, do what they need to with the Vision. So her defect for the greater good in that actually, stopped a big issue with Zemo. Unfortunately, a fight still breaks out, because Tony has his emotions and Bucky, can't control what he's doing, and so there's that where Bucky's playing defense, and Tony's trying to kill him because he killed his parents, But again, Natasha was able to play her role in that film. In Iron Man 2, she also played a very crucial role. And obviously in Endgame, she made the ultimate sacrifice to, ensure that everything would be fine at the end. So yeah, I think it's really nice for her to get her own story to where we can really appreciate her being herself, not being what, the team needs her to be. Because she's such... listen, the Avengers is not a League of Legends 5-man, but if it was, Black Widow is the support player, and that's all there is to it.
I have to agree. I mean, Black Widow has played a support role in a lot of these films. And I think it is very overdue, this movie. I think that we needed to have this movie a while ago. Possibly even before Endgame even happened. I mean, this movie gave us so much background and also gave us a lot of questions. And, I mean, I think one of the questions that a lot of people are wondering, but not certain of, is why isn't Elena at the end fighting with her to, get the Infinity Stones? And, I mean, some people say that she was part of the snap and she got dissipated in that, and that's partially why Natasha, gave up her life, was also for her sister to come back, And some people are like, she was alive, but she just didn't want to come and help. And I mean, that's another question that, we're getting out of this movie. I mean, the movie gave us a lot of answers, so, but I mean, then it gave us more questions like Red Guardian. I mean, this is really the first time that we really are hearing about him inside the Marvel movie universe. I mean, we've obviously heard about him in the comics. We know that, he is pretty much the Russian I meant Captain America.
The Russian super soldier?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, but my mouth wasn't functioning.
If we're going to talk about Red Guardian, I just have to come out and say that I was not disappointed with his acting. I was disappointed with the script. I understand that this movie is about Natasha Romanoff. And, Yelena plays a big role being one of the widows, as well as being a badass. And she's arguably the favorite character of this movie, and it's not even her own movie. But the Red Guardian is actually just a super badass, man. I first was introduced to Red Guardian through, the comics a little bit, but more through Marvel Contest of Champions, learning, his gamer backstory and such. And Red Guardian, actually, via Origins, is a potential love interest that Natasha has. And clearly in this movie, we did not get that.
Yeah.
At all. If anything, it was daddy issues.
I mean, Red Guardian was essentially a father in Black Widow, is what we got. And it's interesting. I mean, I'm curious. Okay. I'm really curious as to what they're going to do with him. Because here's the deal. We have Red Guardian now being introduced into the Marvel movie franchise. Black Widow obviously is taking case right after Civil War. So it's a while before Endgame has happened. But now they have him available to their hand. And I'm curious what they're going to do for him. Because he did a great job in the film. But we just didn't get much information on him. I mean, we obviously heard him talking in the prison about all of his stories of him fighting Cap, which we also found out was false, him making it up. But I mean, could totally see Marvel making a movie where it's Red Guardian versus Captain America. I mean, that would be an interesting movie that would give a lot of character development to him. And it'd be interesting to see how he was developed in Russia, too. I mean, this whole serum was developed in America, and Captain America was the first test of this serum.
Well, the second test.
I guess, yeah, the second test.
Red Skull, I guess it wasn't a test. It was just a mistake.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you really consider it? But I mean, okay.
Hey, man, you took the test. Whether you passed or failed is...
But I think the question is now, how did Red Guardian get on the serum to pretty much turn him into that? Or did he come that way?
Well, so in the comics, there's a lot of explanation to this that kind of helps, some of us that are a little bit more versed. The Black Widow, if you do not know this, and this is... I don't know if Kevin Feige has it as canon. She doesn't have the superhero serum, right? The super soldier serum, but she does have enhancements that it's not a Cap level, it's not a Spider-Man level, but I mean, she's able to kick some serious ass with the greatest of warriors, even from other planets, and whoop their ass, So she's definitely got some extra talents and stuff that were not fully explained in this movie, but the extent of the training that they go through in the Red Room and stuff, I do feel like the MCU did them well in that aspect. Moving back to Red Guardian, unfortunately, I think this may be the only time we see him. I was not overly impressed with, how that was handled. He didn't even have a shield, and that really rubbed me the wrong way because he has his own shield. But again, we can only do so much. It was a ragtag moment where this group came back together. So I mean, my stance on Red Guardian, he got buried terribly by Marvel, and I think it would have been cool, to see Red Guardian versus Cap, maybe in the past. I however cannot see that happening, in the future for obvious reasons. With us not having Chris Evans, but I just don't think, based on his performance in this movie, due to scripting, that it would even be worth his time.
Because I mean, he followed the script well, and he did amazing acting.
Oh no, he did his job.
He did amazing acting. He did good. It's just the script wasn't there to support him. That's the thing.
Right. Marvel did him a little bit dirty. Granted, he is a lot older. As you can see, his aging isn't as great as Cap's.
Mm-hmm.
So, as well, with that said, he didn't get, Steve Rogers' dose of the super soldier serum, nor Bucky's. It had to have been something else that, is somewhere between what Cap and Bucky had, what the the Flag Smashers had in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was a lot less than that. So, I mean, I think they buried him. I mean, he got his ass whipped by Taskmaster. Whereas, if he can't take on the Taskmaster, then there's no way in hell he'll take on Captain America. Captain America is the best hand-to-hand fighter in the MCU.
Yeah, and I have to put this in there just because I feel like it's important. And this just didn't make sense to me. You did mention that Red Guardian has the shield, obviously.
Correct.
And obviously we saw that he had his suit kept for him by that lover that he had in this movie.
Right.
But for some reason his lover never kept his shield. What happened to that shield?
I want to say it's something similar to what happened to Steve's when Sam turned it in. With the Red Guardian, they took his stuff from him, is what it kind of felt like in the movie. They didn't believe in his abilities, and I feel like that's their excuse for burying him as hard as they did. With that said, I'm sure that Russia has his shield somewhere with the rest of his tactical gear. Will we ever get to see that? No. So I don't think that Kevin Feige and his team at Marvel give a flying fuck about the Red Guardian, which is really sad because it's a great character. But again, the way that they played it in this movie, it I guess it had to be done. You need, big game players from Russia, and Black Widow's mostly what you have, and people in the mainstream media aren't going to understand anything anyways. So this was a safe play by Marvel. But unfortunately, a really good hero on the red side. He did get not only sidelined, but he got buried. But, I mean, with Black Widow, or at this case, we're just going to call her Natasha.
Okay.
With her, I mean, I knew that Russia had a big organization. I didn't realize that they had multiple widows. That was crazy.
And to be completely honest, one thing that sort of surprised me, and I was a little confused on, was were the widows ran by Russia, or were they ran by someone who was Russian and high up in Russian? Because that was one thing that didn't make sense to me. I mean, in that one scene, and this is going to be a bit of a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it, if you can't tell already, that they show him accessing the screen where all the widows are, all thousands and thousands of widows across the globe. And I think the one question that I really got from that is he really Russian and part of the Russian government? Or is he someone trying to take over the Russian government who is Russian?
Based on the screenplay, I want to say that at the end of the day, he has the power. Do you know what I'm saying? He was on a power trip. If
But
you
I didn't feel
remember,
like he was the Russian government. I did not get that sort of vibe from the thing, which is sort of what we were always led to believe, is that Natasha was with the government of Russia and got trained by them. And that just isn't sort of how this sort of vibed, in my opinion.
they didn't give him a lot of backstory because everyone knew about the Red Room. That was very plainly put out amongst Natasha's screen time before.
Mm-hmm.
What we're looking at is in the beginning where they're turned in, to get conditioned again. He is a representative for the government, but obviously he has his own agenda. And if you don't believe that the governments of this world are corrupt, then you are blind and you are a fool. And it is what it is. But at this point, I would like to think of, our villain that we have here. The best way to compare him to help people that don't understand as much would be to compare him to Alexander Pierce, who was one of the most trusted friends of Nick Fury within, the United Nations and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And he took down S.H.I.E.L.D. through Hydra. So that's where we're looking right now. So think of it kind of like that. And that's where we're dealing with, A lot of people are like, well, why aren't we talking about Taskmaster? He's the villain in this. It's like, well,
Taskmaster was a creation of that villain. And one thing I really I was surprised about Budapest. That whole Budapest information that we got. Because, we've heard in previous scenes, we don't talk about Budapest. Natasha says it to Hawkeye. Hawkeye says it to Natasha all the time. And we finally find out what happened in Budapest in this movie. And, in my eyes, Natasha does sort of explain why she did it, but that threw me the biggest curveball that I have ever seen. That Natasha called in a bomb on this building and she tracked down our lead bad guy in this, which I'm trying to remember his name. Do you remember?
Dreykov.
Aaron? Dreykov, sorry. She used Dreykov's kid to find Dreykov and then called in a bomb on the building while Dreykov and his kid were inside. And that just sort of, that information right there, it made me feel weird. Because, she said it was all about her, her leaving, the Red Room and joining S.H.I.E.L.D. And Hawkeye, obviously, we know was involved in it with her. But my thing is, with all this, with them having this information, because obviously Hawkeye had to have known that this was Natasha's plan to make sure that he was in there, There's no way that Hawkeye didn't know that.
Collateral damage.
And, yeah, it was collateral damage, but
it's really shitty.
it was shitty, but I never saw that coming out of, our Black Widow that we have on, the Avengers.
Yeah, well, again, she says throughout the series, she has a hell of a ledger, and she wants nothing more than to clear it. So, I can respect that. While we're on the Taskmaster topic, there's a lot of shit we were gonna talk to about Taskmaster.
Where do we start there?
Jesus Christ. Do we want to start on the outfit?
I'll let you take the lead there. You paid more attention to the outfit and the comics than I did.
So the helmet was different. It was interesting. The gear was very nice looking. It almost felt, and don't get mad at me for this, but it almost felt like they were going for kind of a Mandalorian styled armor system, which is not traditional. But again, a lot of these, uniforms and gear that these heroes are wearing is not, it's not all going to be comic canon. With that said, the original Taskmaster, his name is Tony Masters. he was created in the 80s. And he typically had a lot of run-ins with Captain America, Ant-Man, and of course our favorite neighborhood Spider-Man. He would pop into others locations as well, but as you see, he does use a sword and a shield, and he does also have a bow. One thing I will say about his costume, as well as some of the other widows, that little backpack that they have, that is like almost like nanotech. That shit was cool. Like, I really loved that.
And
that was really good for me.
I think one thing that we see here is also with him. I mean, at this point, we aren't sure what to call Taskmaster. Is it him? Is it a her? As in the comics, it's him.
It is, but it has been adapted though. There have been other versions of the Taskmaster through video games, through the comics as time goes, but it's just
there were so many things about Taskmaster that just it rubbed me weird, because I mean, first off, in the end of the film, it sort of looks like Taskmaster. I'm going to not pronounce this right. Taskmaster was like almost turning good near the end of the movie, once Natasha threw the cure on her, I should say. I mean, it really leaves us to question, what's the plan here? I mean, is it going good? Are we going to keep him good? Is it bad? I mean, it's confusing at this point.
With Taskmaster, he did have some involvement with S.H.I.E.L.D. A really fun fact that you may not know, and I bet you 90% of people don't know, Taskmaster actually trained Crossbones. I don't know if you know
what?
Crossbones.
Okay.
So Crossbones is the guy in Captain America Civil War at the very beginning who, tried to commit suicide as a suicide bomber, and Wanda lifted him up to explode and blah, blah, blah. Anyways. But, Taskmaster spent a lot of his time in New York. So he was fighting, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher, Captain America. That's kind of his stomping grounds. But obviously, you can adapt the character to what you need to for the story. I feel like using that brainwash you can't hurt me theory that Dreykov used it works. You know what I mean? Yeah. People have done worse for less. So I feel like this was very basic, manipulation. Yeah. It wasn't something ridiculous, but wow.
One question I really have from this is, what are we going to expect now? I mean, are we expecting Taskmaster to, stay good and maybe go with S.H.I.E.L.D. for a bit? Or are we expecting him to, go back to being a bad guy fairly soon? I mean, that's the next question. I mean, like, what is Marvel going to do with this person now that we have him in their hands,
I think this is a prediction, not a spoiler, but I think Taskmaster has one of two options. Technically, S.H.I.E.L.D. is unavailable right now, right? They've been disbanded, but if you've watched the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, you know that they're hanging around somewhere, somehow. With that said, maybe the Taskmaster will defect and work with S.H.I.E.L.D. or work with the Avengers in more of like a Falcon role. When he first joined, he was just kind of like a sentry guard of their base kind of thing. We may see the Taskmaster get recruited, like we did John Walker and like we did Yelena, to join what could be the Dark Avengers. We could be looking at the Thunderbolts. There's a couple different things that they can do, for this. I feel like we may be looking at a similar situation to the Injustice League that DC has, if you're familiar. And there's a couple different paths that that could take. So as far as that post credit scene with Valentina, dude, I still am trying to figure out what her deal is. I really feel strong Suicide Squad vibes. And so that's kind of where I'm leaning. So she may very well be trying to do like the Dark Avengers, or have some sort of government funding behind the Avengers' back kind of shit in case they get out of line.
I mean, I could see that, but my big question is what Valentina handed Yelena, is it a hit on Hawkeye? I mean, is that what they're really going to do with Yelena now that, the whole company has her? And I mean, obviously the crowd liked her. She was very well liked by everyone in the stands.
Dude, I can't not see her on my TikTok feed.
Oh, I mean, that's most people. I mean, it's just, the question is, what are they going to do with her? I mean, I would love to see her used in a movie, but I would hate to see her go against Hawkeye.
So here's what's going to happen, and this is just my 2 cents. I'm pretty sure I'm right, though. With the Hawkeyes series launching sometime later this year, she will be directly involved in that. We will see Kate Bishop. If you're, I know you're familiar with Kate Bishop because you and me play Marvel the Avengers.
Yeah.
So she does take the mantle of Hawkeye. This may be like some sort of attack to where Clint actually loses his hearing. That way his character's more in tune with the comic. If it is a hit that she's asking for. Or it could be, like where Nick Fury recruited Bruce Banner. Excuse me. This could be where Nick Fury introduced Bruce Banner to, with Natasha. Like, here's your target. I need you to go bring him in, kind of a thing. That may be what we're looking at as well. It's interesting to see, but I do think that she'll be able to go and talk with Clint and get some sort of closure. Because, again, Clint is one of the best hand-to-hand fighters, but
he's also one of the de-escalators.
Yeah, he's really good at talking, being the voice of reason, kind of a role. Because I mean, he's a superhero, but he's not a superhero. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think one thing that because when Valentina handed her that contract, one of the things she said is, "I felt like I need to hand this to you personally. This is the person that killed," and she specifically said killed,
yeah,
Natasha.
And I don't know where she got that information either. So I think she's dirty.
I think that Valentina is trying to hand off a hit just because of what she said is killed. I'm thinking that she's trying to get some sort of, haste and anger there. Because, I mean, if she just said, "Hey, I got this contract, I need you to bring it. Here's this contract, I figured you would want it," then I would think maybe the aspect of the Black Widow, like you were saying with Bruce Banner. But the aspect that she brought in that, he killed, it's giving me the vibe that, I'm thinking something bad is going to happen, and maybe there's going to be a movie, as you said, where Hawkeye is fighting her, and something may happen.
Yeah, I think we'll see that in the series Hawkeye. I really think we will.
It's going to be a time to tell sort of thing.
I would love to see Kate Bishop try to square off against Yelena. That's not going to go well.
It's going to be a very interesting one, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, she's going to beat the hell out of both of them.
I mean, Yelena was definitely the poster sister of, their family. I mean, the amount of Yelena was like the innocent kid that no longer was able to be innocent. And I feel like we can't really go without mentioning this, because I think everyone in the crowd sort of got a laugh out of this scene. Yelena also sort of brings some comedy into her, the widows in this movie, because when she's breaking out Red Guardian from the prison, and they just had finished breaking him out and they're leaving, they talk about, Yelena talks about having kids and how she's unable to do that because she doesn't have a uterus in that scene. I think everyone in the theater had a laugh at that point. I mean, that was just funny.
Penis funny.
Well, it sort of is that aspect, but it's the aspect of how she said it and how Red Guardian reacted when she said it.
I think that she provided a lot of comedy just by being herself.
Mm-hmm.
Being someone who is, I don't want to say cold, but looking at her arc, because there was a lot of development for her, and through what we saw with Natasha, she was holding on to this dream of having a real family and wanting it to be real and wanting to love it. And unfortunately, not everything goes out perfectly, but she was really funny, in her interactions with Natasha. She's like blown away by the fact that her sister's an Avenger, but yet is a poser, and she gives her shit about posing the entire movie.
Oh yeah.
And then at the very end, she drops and does that pose, and she's like, "Oh my god, what?"
Yeah, and like the throw up, like sort of. Ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a comedy thing. I mean, it was amazing to just have that sort of aspect in the movie too. Because I mean, the Avengers movies sometimes they can be so uptight, and it's action and it's interesting and it's a good movie, but it can be uptight and sometimes it needs that sort of laugh, which we used to have by some of the scenes and cameos that we got with only Robert Downey Jr. popping in and doing cameos, but also Stan Lee. We got comedy from him to sort of break up the tenseness. But with Stan Lee no longer there, and we losing a lot of these big face people, I think it's nice that some of these people who are taking on the face of these new characters, like Yelena, I'm happy that we're getting some of these people that are acting and having a tiny bit of comedy sort of break up that tension.
And I think a lot of that is credited to the actress for the way that she's able to adapt to that role and to make it her own. Because, like you said, ever since Infinity War and Endgame, the comedy has been very few and far between, right? With Infinity War, they're trying to really lighten the mood before shit happens, right? With, the Stan Lee cameo with Peter Parker on the school bus. You have, when Hulk is teleported to the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York, and did you just touch the pot of levitation or whatever it was? And he's like, what? You know what I mean? And then obviously when Iron Man meet up with a couple members of the Guardians of the Galaxy, let me ask you this one time. What master do you serve? What do you want me to say? Jesus? A lot of that, I mean, it was really comedy because they're really trying to lighten the mood because in about 30 minutes, you're going to lose 2/3 of these guys. The snap was not nice to the Avengers at all. They lost a lot of their heavy hitters.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's nice to see that Marvel is still willing to bring this comedic side to their work and their stories, where you don't see a lot of that from DC. You see more smart assy, I'm better than you comedy, which I'm all for, by the way. But Marvel's trademark is a lot of quips, a lot of think on your feet, a lot of comedy and stuff, and we didn't really get to see a lot of that like in its purest form from a creative standpoint, I feel, until we got Taika Waititi directing Thor Ragnarok. And as you know, he's coming back to direct Thor #4, which obviously guaranteed a contract extension with Chris Hemsworth. So I'm excited to see him in Thor 4. I think that's where it ends, because at this point he's gaining more and more of, his power and reaching his potential. Someone actually said, and I know that we're kind of way off the point of Black Widow. I think we've covered everything. But obviously, I am the biggest Thor lover that there ever was. Thor has yet to even reach his potential. He's not even close. He's 1,500 years old. As you know, Thor lives for thousands upon thousands of years. He's really now understanding. Are you Thor, God of Hammers? Well, no, I'm Thor, God of Thunder, dumbass. And so he understands that. And as he takes over Asgard and becomes this almighty being, that's kind of what we're seeing. So we may see that set up in Thor number 4, where he's back on the swagger.
See it in Guardians of the Galaxy, to be honest, because you got to remember how he ended this. He was with the Guardians of the Galaxy. We could possibly even see it in that, which would be interesting. Could Thor possibly be joining the Guardians of the Galaxy?
I honestly, based on the scenes that were ending, I thought he was leading them, but
him and Quill were definitely fighting.
Of course, we all know who the leader is. Yeah, it's me. Oh, but of course it is. There was good banter, and I think anytime Chris Pratt is on screen, he's very serious in a comedic way, and that just is really healing. Even though everyone still kind of hates his guts for still too soon. But anyways,
but I think that it's going to be very interesting to see where they go at with all these characters and these contracts ending. I think it's just going to be, it's interesting to see where they go with these characters, where they go at with, these new people that are coming into the franchise too. All these people that are coming in, the actor who plays Yelena, she's only 24 years old. We're getting young actors again. Black Widow, she's coming up on her 40s now, and she started when she was 25. All these actors, they're starting young, and they stick with the company for years on end. So I'm curious to see where we go with this and what Marvel continues to do. Because I think that right now, they may not be on the best track that they could be on, but I definitely think they're at least on the general right direction.
What I can say for the future is I think, aside from maybe Tom Holland, you will see shorter contracts with Marvel cast because they have so much that they can do. This has been the biggest year for Marvel ever. They've done so well. They've made so much money and have just gotten so much positive publicity throughout all of their channels. We've seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We've had WandaVision. We've had Loki, and I'm so excited to talk about Loki, dude. There's so much. I could talk about Loki for the rest of my life. Now we have the Black Widow. In a couple months we have Shang-Chi. We have the Eternals. We have Hawkeye. We have Spider-Man. They really went all out this year to get everyone really pumped to get back on schedule, back on track. Eyes up and forward, focusing on the good. So I don't know. Like I said earlier, Marvel's at a point where they don't need big name actors anymore. They can take a nobody and make them a star. And I think that that's huge because with such a broad spectrum of characters and such a broad spectrum of talent, that the world of acting has to offer, I see an extremely bright future. Marvel is a cash cow, and Disney just keeps milking it on the teats because they've screwed up too many times with Star Wars in the last 5 years. And that's where we are, Kurtis. I'm really excited, as we wrap up to close here. But we have so much to talk about with Marvel. We'll probably do a whole series on Falcon and Winter Soldier, answering a lot of those questions that we've had from some of our friends. WandaVision is pretty self-evident, self-explanatory. They did really good, tying up all those knots that they had, some loose ends. Loki, a lot of people are freaking out. I'm not worried about Loki. I've seen the whole series. I'm going to sneeze.
I think the thing I think that the thing that me and a majority of the people who are watching all these Marvel films are just happy about is that we actually have a roadmap. We know that they're planning on making these movies. We know what to expect coming forward for the next year, next 2 years. We know what movies are coming out. We know what movies to expect. So now all we have to do is keep an eye on Marvel and keep an eye on what they're doing in these films. Because the thing is, these are, some of them are small name films, like, Shang-Chi. No one really knew about it. And some of them are these big name films, like, Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and stuff like that.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. I mean, the list goes on. And we really just need to keep an eye on it and see what they're doing and what they're going to do. Because really, these next few films are going to determine the next 10 years for Marvel. Really. Because this is going to determine, what movies are going to make at next, what the crowd likes, what the crowd doesn't like. I mean, it could be after, everyone watching Black Widow, Marvel could realize, hey, we really buried, Red Guardian and everyone really liked him. Maybe we should make a Red Guardian movie now. I mean, Marvel may use that sort of feedback from the theater. It's possible. We've seen it before.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's possible for us to see it again. It's just what is going to happen in these next few films will determine the next 10 years for their franchise and what they're going to do for those next 10 years.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I cannot wait. Guys, hopefully you had a good time. If you have questions about, the stuff we talked about today, slide in the Discord, send a DM. You can comment on the podcast. We have, we're up on Spotify. We're on Podbean. A lot of the questions that you may have as far as the future of Marvel, guys, make sure you're caught up on what's going on. Make sure you watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, see what's going on with the Avengers. Watch WandaVision, figure out what the hell is about to happen here. If you haven't seen Loki, the series, you absolutely need to. Especially with the Black Widow movie that just, launched a week before this all ended. The Loki season finale literally explains so much about what we're going to be seeing in Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and literally every single series coming up and movie for the next 1,000 years. So make sure you're on top of that, guys. We appreciate your time. Make sure to follow us, obviously, on Spotify and or Podbean, where you guys can get your podcast the day it is uploaded. You can also feel free to hop on our Discord, Superhero Squad. We are on the Discord list. You just search us and you can join right up. You can also follow us here on twitch.tv/AaronKL93. And we do podcast episodes at least twice a week. And there's so much to cover, man. We may start doing daily because, oh my God, we could talk like another 15 hours about how great just the Black Widow movie was and other things we're excited about in the future. Obviously, we don't have that time. But thank you guys for your time. And we're going to see you next week, man. We're going to have a good-ass time.